Welcome back to Raptors Today. Paul Jones alongside Javon Shepard and Sherman Hamilton. Got to measure my words. You don't know what take this is to try and get these things right with my two colleagues. Guys, we know what will be right tomorrow is the Raptors playing the Houston Rockets. And say what you want about his off-the-court activities. Ime Udoka is showing that he can coach. Yeah. The Rockets have improved. They have almost surpassed the win total from a couple seasons ago this year. We'll see that in a second. But the big thing on that previous board was the defensive rating is a top 10 in the NBA. He has got them playing together. The team is transforming. They're kind of rebuilding it. I mean, we've talked about this before. Felt sorry for Steven Silas. He went to Houston, thought he was getting Westbrook and Harden, and ended up with basically an AAU team and lost his job. But Udoka's in there. He's changing things around. And what do you see, Sherm, as the trajectory of this team going forward as they kind of rebuild and restore the shine on a very, very proud franchise?
Yeah, first of all, I'm glad you shouted out Steven Silas. I mean, he just, I think, got a raw deal.
Bad deal.
In that situation. And Ime Udoka, we were never concerned about him as a coach. Yep. He could always coach.
Right.
And unfortunate what happened off the court with him. But it's no surprise that he's gotten back into it and he's hit the ground running. I think what they've done is a couple things. Number one, they understood out of Porter. They understood that Porter was not the guy moving forward. They realized that. What they did was they surrounded their young people with some vets. Fred VanVleet, and we know how good of a vet Fred is. Yep. He's a huge leader, a massive leader, and he understands how to galvanize people, and he's talented. Then they brought in Dillon Brooks, who we know. Dillon, you can say what you want about him, but I want him on my team.
Yes.
If I'm playing, I want him on my team. Sengun has been excellent. They've gotten pieces now that can play. Jeff Green, a veteran, a wily veteran, a guy who's been around the league, a guy who's won. He gets it. So now pieces are in place that can stabilize you on the court, and it's around the core, a young player of Jalen Green. Yeah. And Jalen Green is, to me, an explosive young talent. So now you have the building blocks. You have the coach on the sideline, and now the team can play a brand of basketball that's consistent and sustainable. So Steven Silas didn't get these opportunities.
No,
that's
he didn't.
The problem.
No, he didn't.
Ime Udoka's getting all these opportunities, and he's doing a good job with it, so it's not surprising.
And the impressive thing with Ime, he's a player's coach, and he's not afraid to hold you accountable. He's not afraid to get in your face and let you know what his expectations are. And you add that into the mix. You couple that with, Dillon Brooks, who, you just watch what he did this summer. If you look at what he did this summer with Canada, he's a culture guy. He's a locker room guy. Jeff Green, culture guy, locker room guy. And then Fred himself, Fred is a leader. He's a floor general. But I also like the fact that you have a top 10 defense. If you can play defense in today's NBA, right, you figured out something, right? That says something because everybody's trying to figure that out. But also, they've looked at the formula across the league and realized you've got to play from the post, right? You've got to use your big man. Sengun is a baby Jokic. And they're one of the top teams in use roll man usage. They're one of the top teams in post-ups. So I think they have some really good balance. And like you said, Sherm, surrounding Green with some young guys and letting him just learn through his mistakes and flourish.
Yeah. You talk about Sengun. Cam Whitmore giving them some really good minutes, too. Another guy that is playing well and another young player. And when I think about Sengun, you talked about him as a baby Jokic. Here's a guy, he's been allowed to develop in a space where there's not a lot of pressure at all. And we talk about development. Sometimes there's losing is code for development. Well, he was in Houston when they were losing. He's obviously developed his game, but not developed a lot of bad habits. And Sherm, you have a line that I really love. You talk about being responsible with the minutes. Don't just go out there and it's a bad shot. It doesn't matter. Oh, he's young. No. Hold his feet to the fire and say, I know we're losing, but I expect a certain level of play and a certain disposition around how you're playing. And it seems like that hasn't been lost with the organization, and maybe even a Stephen Silas with Alfred Sengun.
Yeah, and I think you tip your hat to Stephen Silas throughout that process, but you think about the Raptors, that's kind of what Darko's going to have to do with this
Right.
group.
Yes.
He's
Right.
going to have to hold these guys accountable and continually reinforce and teach good habits,
Yeah.
even though the wins might not be there as you want it to be, because everybody knows winning feels better. But when you're losing, can you maintain good habits? And that's something that's going to happen for the Raptors. But with Houston, the other thing I feel about being given opportunities and being responsible is being held accountable. Now, that can happen a couple of ways. It can happen via the organization, or it can happen individually. And when you have an individual who holds himself accountable, it beats having an organization to have to hold you accountable.
Self-policing.
And Sengun seems like that kind of person that said, I expect certain things of myself regardless of what's happening in terms of win-loss. And now we're seeing the fruits of that. And that, to me, is the best. You want players that will police themselves,
Right.
that will hold themselves accountable. And when you have that, and I think guys like Scotty are like that, RJ is like that, Emmanuel Quickly is like that. I think a lot of the players on the Raptors are like that. They will hold themselves accountable.
Yeah. Quickly before we go, Dylan Brooks and RJ Barrett. We're not sure if RJ's playing. Hopefully, he'll be back in the lineup. But you got two guys that were important this past summer that may have a chance to play against one another.
Fierce competitors. You don't expect anything less from Dylan. But, just quickly on your point, that was one of the first things RJ said to me the second day he was here, is that the difference in coaching that he's getting from New York to here is that they're sitting down, like they're teaching him, we're watching film, you're showing me how I can be a pro, how I can be a better pro. And he just wants to get better and absorb all that. So I think that for him, the ceiling's going to be so much higher here under this, this fabric here.
Well, fingers crossed, if you're a Raptor fan, that RJ Barrett will be back in the lineup. Whether he is or not, there will be a game. The Raptors and the Rockets. You can see it on Sportsnet. Hear it with Jevohn and I on TSN 1050. For everybody here, we thank you for watching us here on this first day of Black History Month, February 1st, on Raptors Today.
Thanks for watching the Toronto Raptors YouTube channel. Check out our latest video and subscribe for more.